Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. Today we've got another episode of About Abroad Happy Hour Edition, and if you're unfamiliar with the Happy Hour Edition concept, don't worry. All that means is that I'm getting out of the studio, getting away from the professional mics, getting into the real world with a real human and maybe having a real coffee or beer or something. But we are going to keep doing the same thing we always do on this show, which is talking about how to make awesome lives abroad actually happen. And today I've got my good friend Guillermo here, who is going to share how he moved to Australia and how pretty much anybody listening to this can do the same, and stayed for like 6 years. And it was amazing to me that this is so easy and so possible. And so despite the audio, we're not in a professional studio, so you don't get the same audio that you normally get on this show. But if you can get past that and just enjoy the conversation and the great insights that Guillermo has to share, then I think you'll enjoy it immensely. So have a beer with us, have a coffee with us, a slice of cake, whatever you do at happy hour. Enjoy this episode, and we will have a great time catching up with Guillermo here. All right, so we're here with Guillermo. Guillermo, thanks for joining About Abroad.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm super excited to have this conversation actually here recording because we're friends. We hang out here in Valencia together. Yeah. And I've heard bits and pieces of your ventures abroad over the last couple years, but now I'm going to get down into the details.
Good.
Let's share with the people. So anyway, a little bit, you want to give a little bit of background on yourself for the people that are listening?
Yeah, sure.
Who is Guillermo?
So basically, I was born here in Valencia, in Spain. I lived here pretty much my whole life. I studied at college, film and television, and I tried to learn English. I actually traveled to Scotland to try to learn English. That was my first attempt. It did not work well. I lived there for 4 months, and I was always surrounded by Spanish people, so that's why I did not learn English. So basically it was 4 months of wasting my savings and having fun.
Worth it though in the end?
It was worth it. Yeah, I really had a great time. I did not learn English, but I had a great time.
Where were you?
In Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh, yeah.
Yeah, and Scottish accent is actually quite brutal. So
yeah, it's hard for me to understand. I mean,
it is very hard to understand. So I didn't know any English, so I didn't really care. I didn't understand anyway. So
did you literally speak no English?
No English. I didn't speak any English, and I did not learn any English.
4 months well spent.
No, really. I had such a great time, but I did not learn. No. Yep. Then I came back to Spain, and I kept working on my field as a photographer and so on. And then I think it was 2011 during the crisis.
How old were you then, roughly?
I was 26, if I'm not wrong.
So you finished university and...
Yeah, and I was working... So I studied film and television, but actually my passion was photography. Mm-hmm. So I was working in a studio, but it was a small business, a small studio, family-owned studio, and during the crisis, it hit them very, very hard. So one day they just told me, "Look, we can't really pay you anymore."
Yeah,
so that was the end of it.
You weren't willing to work for free, so they were parting ways.
Well, I did work for a year doing weddings and stuff, but I used to hate it so much. I hated it. So after a year, I thought, you know what? This is not working for me. Maybe it's time for me to travel and learn English. And my first option was England, but obviously with my previous experience going to the UK, I thought, you know what, I'm not making the same mistake twice, so I'm gonna go further. I looked into Canada and Australia, and I went for Australia because of the weather.
Yeah. Slightly different than Canada.
And the visas were a bit easier to get. So Canada has a working holiday visa for Spanish people, but there used to be only 250 spots a year.
Wow.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
Because I heard that thousands of people apply for it a year, thousands. So I thought, you know what, that's not gonna guarantee. It's not guaranteed that I'm gonna be able to go, and I want to go now. I literally wanted to leave right away.
And so the criteria at this point needs to be an English-speaking country with good weather.
Correct.
And did you entertain any other places, or at that point you land on Australia?
No, really, no. It was actually a very quick process for me because I was very fed up. I was very tired of being here in Spain and struggling to get a job. So I thought, you know what, I don't care. I'm just leaving. So I sold my motorbike and I bought a ticket to Australia. And I think everything happened within 3 months. Did you need
to do any prep work to do that? Like, can you as a European, as a Spaniard, just move to Australia? Or?
I actually went on a tourist visa.
Okay.
Knowing that I was going to be able to apply for a student visa.
Okay. Once you got there. So you didn't have to do the student visa before.
You can if you want.
Okay.
I didn't want to because I didn't really have that much money. Mm-hmm. And student visas are very expensive. And there are a few companies in Australia that they do that for you. They get ready all the paperwork and everything for you, and they do not charge you. Now, back then I didn't know that they were not charging me. I was very skeptical about paying 6,000 Australian dollars to a company in Australia being here in Spain.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna pay this money, and I don't know if they're ripping me off. I don't know if they're charging me fees. So what I did is I researched these companies. It was Go Australia, and I remember the other one. It was Australia something. I said, okay, they're here. So once I get to Australia, I'm gonna check them out, and that's what I did. I got to Australia and I checked them out, and I checked the courses they were offering. I went to the schools, and they didn't charge anything.
Really?
Really.
So you mean for the classes or for the visa?
No, they didn't charge anything to get your visa ready and to get your course. They didn't charge me anything. And I always thought, why is that? And I found out later on. Once I started my first course. When I went to the school, the director of the school, the first day, the introductory day, he asked, who got here through a company? I said, well, I did. I said, okay, come over, and they gathered the 5 of us. And the reason you're here is because we pay money to these companies to bring students. So we want to know which company you use and if you're satisfied with the services.
Huh.
So then I found out that they were actually the schools paid these companies to get students into their schools.
Wow.
I don't know if that makes sense. And I thought, well, that's perfect because then students can get advantage of this service. And they help you with the visa. I remember I went to the office and they have people that speak Spanish, Italian, French, German, like the Dutch, like they're very well organized. And I was actually very happy with that. So,
that's cool.
Great. Yeah.
So okay, to understand, there's companies in Australia that will, once you arrive in Australia, they will help you get the student visa.
Correct.
For free, or perhaps you could have contacted them ahead of time and paid.
Yeah. And
used that same company, but either way, you would have gotten the same result. You would have gotten put in class.
Yep.
And you would have gotten a student visa because of that.
That's correct.
And they get you the visa also, or do you have to go through like government stuff to do that?
They help you the visa, it sounds very hard at the beginning. Once you get into it, it's very easy.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
You literally do it online. So basically what they do is just, when I did it with them, they did it in front of me. So they literally turn the computer into you and say, okay, we'll do it together so you know how to do it next time. And they do it for you. But you can do this before you go to Australia. I don't know how it works because I didn't do it. I do know that they don't charge you.
Okay. That's cool.
They didn't even charge you for that as long as you go to the school that you've agreed.
And all they're concerned about is they want you there taking courses.
Courses, yeah. The more courses you enroll, these schools, they pay them for every course you enroll in.
What's the motivation for the government? Just like, do you have any like why does the government want you there? Or is it more of a just you're welcome to be
these
here?
These are private companies, so the government has nothing to do. You mean for the student visas?
Yeah.
Well, they get money for the visas. You pay for the visa.
Yeah, okay.
They make a lot of money with visas, and they also know that a lot of the students. This is my theory. A lot of the students, they go there for a period of time. Let's call it like 1 year.
Yeah.
6 months even. 6 months, 1 year, and they know that legally you are not allowed to work more than 20 hours, which is not enough in Australia.
Right.
So they basically know that you're going to bring money into the country.
Yeah, and you're not going to take anything from the country. Yeah,
and you're potentially not taking anything. But in a lot of places, we'll discuss this later if you want, but in a lot of places you actually work more than 20 hours and they don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got the tickets, I flew to Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was quite a shocking experience.
I'll bet.
Going to Australia with no friends, no job, no family, it was pretty intense.
What was the first? Okay, start with some of the practicalities. Like, how did you find a place to live?
So I got a hostel. I was on a very tight budget, so I got the cheapest hostel I could find. And
was it like $5 a night?
I don't remember the price. I do know that I was sharing the dorm room with 12 people. No, actually 11 people. I was the 12th. So it was very cheap, and it was probably the worst backpackers or hostel I've ever been in my life.
Nice.
And I've been in many.
Nice introduction to life in Australia.
My first month in Australia, it was the worst experience of my life.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was very hard. Not knowing the language is very hard.
It's hard to imagine that now, speaking to you, because you speak so well. Imagine a point where you didn't speak English even on some level, and you're there in an English-speaking country. It takes some guts to do that, like to just show up and say, I'm gonna figure this out all alone, not like with a friend or a girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
You just show up there. I mean,
most of my friends and family told me, you're going to Australia? No friends, no family, no job? You're crazy. I was thinking, at the moment I thought, I'm not crazy. I just have nothing to lose. I'm tired of the situation in here, and I need to do something to change this.
Yeah, because the situation here in Spain at the time was pretty rough.
It was very bad.
Yeah, unemployment was super high.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was really, really tough.
So part of this was a fresh beginning, kind of a new start sort of thing.
I just wanted to be honest with you, my idea was to travel. I wanted to spend 6 months in Sydney. And then I wanted to go 6 months to Brisbane, and then 6 more months in Melbourne, and then I was planning on going to New Zealand. That was the initial plan. It did not work out.
It never does. I was supposed to be here in Valencia for 3 months 3 years ago, and
exactly.
I'm still here. We're talking. So
exactly.
Okay, so you arrive there in Sydney, and then you stay in this hostel for a while. What is the next step? And also, you said you were on a tight budget, so I imagine you need to get a job pretty quick. So what do these next couple chapters look like, where you find a more permanent place to live, you find work? What is this like?
Yeah, so the first hostel wasn't only the worst hostel I've ever been, it was full of French people, which I have nothing against. But the problem is that when you go to an environment where everybody else speaks a common language, which is not English, like in this scenario, they were lovely people, but they were all French. And then I got there and they all kind of knew each other, or they spoke the same language.
A little cliquey.
Exactly. I was like, I felt that I didn't belong in there. So my first week was not very productive. I was trying to get an apartment, which was very hard to get without a job.
And without speaking English.
So I didn't have internet on my phone back there. So I remember it's very challenging, searching on Google Maps in my computer, taking a photo with my phone of the Google Maps, and then going on the street and trying to figure things out. It was very hard the first week. Then I moved to another backpackers because I had 1 week booked in that one, and obviously I didn't renew. I went to another backpackers in the CBD downtown. Things started to get better. It was more international people in this kind of places, these kind of hostels. A lot of times you find people who they live there. They will stay there for 5 months, no problems. These are the people who you wanna really interact, because they know where the jobs are, and through a person in that backpackers, I got a job in a club, picking up glasses, emptying ashtrays.
You didn't really need English for that at that point.
It was a job that you didn't need English. You don't have to talk to anybody, even though people tend to get a bit tipsy and they talk to you. I remember thinking, I don't speak English. That's all I knew. All I knew is that I just knew how to say I don't speak English. So it was very hard because I didn't have a contract. I was on a tourist visa.
Let me ask you, did you feel like, okay, so in the US, we have a big population of people from Latin America who it's accepted, like, there's just a lot of people that don't speak English, and we know that that's going to be the case, and it's not really like that strange. But Australia is much more isolated. Like, there's not like bordering countries where people speak other languages. Did you feel like really out of place? Or were you surrounded by other people, the French people maybe who didn't speak English, or did you feel comfortable in those shoes? Like, whatever. Do you recall?
Without speaking the language, I did not feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You really feel alone.
Yeah.
Very, very sadly alone. Once you start speaking, Australian people are very open about this. They enjoy having foreigners. I'm generally speaking.
Right.
Once you're able to communicate, they're very nice people.
Yeah.
Well, that's my experience at least. But yeah, before you speak the language, is like anywhere.
Yeah.
It's very
isolating.
Rough.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will talk to you and you literally have no idea what's happening.
I'm imagining you showing up without the internet on your phone, and like trying to see an apartment, and somebody trying to show you the apartment, but they just sound like they're speaking. I mean, they're not speaking your language. You're not speaking theirs. I'm imagining what this must have.
I actually have a funny story about that, and is that back in the day when I moved, I didn't have internet on the phone, as I said. So I was taking photos of Google Maps, and I was completely lost. And I had several photos, and I went to the last photo where I had the pin of the location, because I thought I was close, and I went to this person and I said, "Excuse me," and I was pointing at my phone, and he tried to direct me, but I couldn't understand. So he grabbed my phone. I tried to zoom in, thinking that I had internet, and I was actually on Google Maps, and he was trying to zoom in, and he couldn't, and I remember telling him, photo, no internet, and he was like looking at me like if I had 3 heads, and he got his iPhone. And he did it
in 2 seconds.
He did it in 2 seconds, so that was funny. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, too. Once again, like, I mean, you sometimes when I feel this way, like I tell people even living here, and I speak Spanish okay, like I can communicate for sure. I still feel like a 3-year-old sometimes. Like I get put in situations where I'm like, I'm literally like an infant. I'm hopeless. I have no idea what to do, and I wouldn't be able to get by without having not even a language barrier thing, but like just like you do things different here than we would do them, and I don't even know where to start. So yeah, I can imagine this moment for you. So anyway, you end up finding a place, and I've heard you mention this before. Your first place was not, or maybe I'm referencing the hostel.
The first place I got was a house just by the downtown area. And it was a 3-bedroom house, and we were 10 people living in it.
Wow.
I was sharing my room with 3 other people. When I got there, it was one Spanish, one guy from Jaén, and it was a Korean guy and a Ukrainian guy. We were all foreigners in the house, and it was the cheapest thing I could afford. Back then I was getting paid under minimum wage, way below minimum wage. So I couldn't, and I was working very little just for the weekends in this club. Then I got a job in a Spanish restaurant, and I thought things were gonna get better for me, but they didn't.
You're like, oh, I'm home. Is he going to
Yeah.
serve patatas bravas and jamon?
Yeah.
I'm going to be right
all
home.
this without a contract, obviously, and they knew it, so they take advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
They know you can't complain.
So let's touch on that real quick. So what's the difference with, like, what are you allowed to do, and what do most people do? What were you doing?
As a tourist, you're not allowed to work like anywhere in the world. So, but they will hire you.
Even on a student visa also.
With a student visa, you can work.
Okay.
But at that stage, I didn't have my student visa yet.
Yeah, okay.
So if I had to do this all over again, the first thing I would get is the student visa for many reasons. The first reason is because you are not illegal in the country working. That's very important. The second reason is you interact with more people like you, which I also think is very important, because once I started, so my first month and a half in Australia, I really had a hard time. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have any friends. And everything started to get better as I got my student visa.
Yeah.
I started to go to school, and you interact with more people, and they invite you. You know how it is.
Yeah,
you start
sure.
knowing people, and it feels good, to be able to just have a beer with someone that you know and you see every day. After that, I was able to get a better job, and that made the difference, because I signed a contract and I was getting paid above minimum wage.
Okay.
So I went from getting paid, I think it was $11 an hour to get paid 18 during the week and 21 during the weekend.
And what is a contract? Is a contract more than just the price, like the wage?
Well, yeah, they
also guarantee you hours and
this is the funny thing I was mentioning before. You are allowed only to work 20 hours. That was my first job with a contract. They told me you're only allowed to work 20 hours. And I did work 20 hours only in the first week. After the first week, they needed me, and I did work for 6 years I was there. I always worked more than 20 hours.
Wow.
Everywhere I went, there is only one place, I was 2-3 years in, and it was a fine dining restaurant that they hired me, and the manager told me you can only work 20 hours. And I said, oh, that's okay. And he looked at me and said, no, you're only going to work 20 hours. You have to understand that, because he told me, I know how things work. In here, you will only work 20 hours. And that's when I realized this place is very serious, so I'm not going to get away with it. So, yeah, but any other place, and they don't really care.
Yeah.
They'll give you hours, and they don't. So, which is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, in reality, I mean,
you need the hours, so you work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think getting the student visa was the best thing I did, because in case you roll in, you know people, and people recommend. I was able to leave this Spanish restaurant. I got a job through a friend in a very nice restaurant in Sydney, where you not only have a contract, but also because you do have a contract, they treat you like a human being, not like other places that because you don't have a contract, you can't complain, and they're going to take advantage of you in every single way.
Right.
I'm not only talking about wages, but the way they run the business. You can't call sick, you can't complain, you can't do so many things that when you have a contract, you just say, look, I'm sick. And they're like, that's fine.
You're human.
Exactly.
So that's good. I think that's good advice for somebody, like getting there and trying to wing it and figure it out once you're there, versus like having the plan to get the student visa and
I think learning the language and getting the student visa was, because I did study by myself. When I got there, I remember the first things I tried to learn were kitchen stuff, because I knew that my first serious job was going to be on a restaurant. So I thought I need to, cutlery, glasses, plates, this and that. Right. I know it sounds silly, but I made a list of vocabulary, and I studied by myself at home on the internet, the verbs and all that stuff. It's just trying to learn.
It's funny to think back on now, right? Because it seems so basic, but you needed that.
You can get your student visa through English courses.
Right. I was going to ask you that. So, what were you studying English only, or were you taking like university courses in English?
The thing is that the English courses in Australia are more expensive than some other courses, and I was on a very, very, very tight budget. So when I got there, I remember going to this company and saying, I want the cheapest course possible.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, I'll do it. And he told me the two cheapest courses, they were $200 different apart. I think it was $1,200 and the other one was $1,400 for 6 months. One was business and economics, and the cheapest one, and the other one was sports fitness based on capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art of dance. So I look at the guy and say, well, this is obvious. I'm not going to be on a room crunching numbers. I'm telling you that. So sign me up for the other one. And I did. I actually have a certificate in fitness and sports and fitness in capoeira.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something you don't expect to pick up in Australia.
Yeah, no, well, there were a lot of people like me that did not have any...
Do you even have to go? Like what happens if...
You do have to.
You do have to go. Yeah. Okay, so the government's going to check and see if you win?
And they tell you the first day. If you don't do your hours, we'll contact immigration.
Okay. All right.
Some places
I know here in Spain, there's some people, like, I've talked to some people who are like, yeah, you just sign up for the course. I show that I paid for the course, and that's it. Like, some people don't even ever go.
There are a few companies few schools in Australia that they have, like, that reputation. When you're in this world,
you get to know people.
You get to know. When I say, if you do this business course, you don't have to go. You just go once a week, 1 hour, sign the paper, and you just leave. But for me, I thought, the capoeira was 2 days a week. Yeah. I was thinking, come on, it's 2 days a week. And if I do this, I'm going to have fun. I'm gonna be doing some sport, which I like. And it's 2 days a week.
Yeah, and maybe you're going to meet some people, and you're doing it the right way.
If I do the other thing, if I get caught, you get deported.
Yeah.
They don't mess around with these things. You do something illegal, you get deported. That's how it is. So I did the capoeira and it was good fun. So I did have to learn English by myself.
Yeah.
But if you have a bit more of money, you can get a visa through an English course. But they're very expensive because it's their main business.
Yeah.
It's foreigners like us, well, like me, going into Australia, mostly Asian people, because it's very close. They want to learn English, so they charge a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes double what a capoeira course will cost you.
That's
and and you have to go every day. You have to go Monday to Friday.
So with working, quote unquote, only 20 hours, and then also going to classes, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but just taking that one course in a given what kind of time period? Like, did you need to take that? You were just taking one course at a time, and that was enough?
Well, yeah. It depends of how long you want to stay for. Like they do certificate 1, I think is 3 months. This is only in Australia. Certificate 1 is 3 months, if I'm not wrong. Certificate 2 is 6 months, and it starts doubling until you do. There is certificate 1, 2, 3, 4 diploma, and I think after that you have to. I don't know.
So what is the meaning of certificate in this instance? Like
they're just courses. I wouldn't know how to. Diploma, which I did at the end, is more like you do that at college.
Okay.
That's more serious.
Yeah.
But certificates, there are small schools like academies or stuff like that they do them. But once you get to the diploma level or even certificate 4, that's already college.
Okay.
They do ask you for, if you're a foreigner like me, you have to pass an English exam, which is tough. It's not like they do care about it because
it's not just a BS like.
When I did my certificate 3 in capoeira, they say, we have to do an English test. I was thinking, oh my God, I do not speak English. I've been here for a month. I barely understand what you're saying. I just understood that I have to do a test. And I did it. I remember thinking, there's no way. And they said, yeah, very good.
You passed.
Off you go. And I was thinking, oh my God. Now, once you get to certificate 4 onwards, you need to get an IELTS test and you need to get a 6. You need an average of 6. If I'm not wrong, it was an average of 6. And you know that there are different tests. You do a writing exam.
Writing, listening, speaking.
So there's 4 of them. In each one of them, you have to have minimum 5. You can't fail any of them.
Okay.
And an average of 6.
Gotcha.
So it is not easy when you're a foreigner and you just go to a country. So that's something you have to keep in mind.
So how often? How long is the student visa good for? The one that you were on at that time,
So
roughly, is it like?
It goes. How was this? If I'm not wrong, if my memory is not betraying me, is for each month of course that you have booked.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you do a 6 months, I think for each month you get an X number of days extra. So let's say that I'm doing a 6-month course.
Mm-hmm.
So my visa will go for 6 months plus, I don't remember how many days were, but you get more. For example, 6 months, you get a month and a half.
Right.
If
and
you
if
do
you're
only
doing 3 months,
you get 3 weeks.
Right.
Something like that. It goes something like that. I don't know if it's a week per month or something like that, but you get a leeway. So once you finish your course, you get to enjoy 1 month or something like that to do whatever you want, or even to book a next course if you want to stay longer.
Gotcha. And that's what you pretty much did continuously?
That's exactly what I did.
So how many years were you there?
6.
So throughout the 6 years you were there, were you always taking courses?
No, because I did the first course was capoeira, these 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
which I stayed in Sydney. Then I had a great time in Sydney and I loved the city, but I heard that there was a very cheap course in the Gold Coast up by Brisbane. You could get a student visa with it, and it was a sports and fitness based on surfing.
Sounds
so
amazing.
when I heard that, I thought, okay,
I know where I'm going.
capoeira, but I really want to do surfing. And it was pretty epic. It was the best one yet.
Cool.
And I did, straight away I said, no, I want to do a full year of this. And
a year of surfing on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound terrible.
it was amazing. The best decision I ever made.
Were you in Surfers Paradise?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah?
Yeah. Well, the school was based. I got an apartment in Surfers Paradise, but the school was based in Mermaid Beach, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I don't know if I ever told you, my first trip out of the U.S. was to Australia, and we spent like a couple days in Sydney and Brisbane, and then spent like 2 weeks in Surfers Paradise in the Gold Coast.
It's good fun.
And so, especially at a young age.
It is, especially, It's it was the best decision I ever made. It was very, very good. And by then, my English was a bit better, and I got a job super fast.
Cool.
Getting a job in Australia, at least back then, if you didn't mind what to do, you will get a job super fast.
Cool.
Like, it's not like in Spain that I was struggling. People were struggling to get a job as a waiter.
That had to be a breath of fresh air, even with all the
it was crazy.
struggles. You're just like, you're basically bouncing around a foreign country without speaking the language very well at this point, and just getting a job whenever you want one.
Well, basically, because I got my first job very fast through the backpackers in this place, then I got my first 3 jobs. I got them through people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have a resume. But when I moved to the Gold Coast, I did prepare because I didn't know anyone, and I wanted to get a job as soon as possible to pay for the visa and all that stuff. So I made a quick resume and I sent it to 10 restaurants. I got 4 trials within 3 hours.
Wow.
I got answers for 4 trials, and I got them like consecutive days. And I did 1 trial one day in the Versace in a hotel, in a very good hotel. And I was blown away. I was like, I really want this job. And I did it, and they were like, okay, come on Thursday and you start on Thursday. And that was it.
Wow.
Very, very fast. I got a job very fast. It was high season though, that's true. I got there in September, which is when the high season is about to start.
Yeah.
Which is summer during Christmas. So I was lucky. But then during the low season, my boss told me, oh, you might want to get another job to get an extra cut. And I got a job like that very fast as well. So it was easy. It was easy to get a job.
Very cool. So rewinding back to, you mentioned a few minutes ago that at some point you didn't need to stay on the student visa.
Yeah.
Right? So how did that transition happen?
So that's when I met my wife.
Okay.
So we stayed that was my last student visa actually. Oh no, sorry, no, it wasn't. I did that visa, and then when I met my actual wife, she was studying at university, and I decided that I wanted to stay in Australia.
And she's Canadian, for
she's
those
Canadian.
that don't know.
Yeah, she is. She's Canadian. She was studying in Australia, and I decided to stay because she had one more year. So actually, it was a big coincidence that I finished my diploma, my certificate 4 in surfing at the same time that she finished university. So then we thought, oh, shall we, move to Sydney and try luck with better jobs? So we moved to Sydney and we moved together. I did a diploma at college. I got enrolled in a diploma in screen and media, which is what I had studied here in Spain. So, and then I got that visa, which was 2 years, but before it ended, because my wife and I were living together. Back in the day, we were only dating, but because we were living together, I was able to jump into her visa.
Ah, okay.
She was on a postgraduate visa. So when you finish a degree in Australia, they give you 1 or 2 years to work in Australia.
So she did her degree there, and then she gets like a visa.
A 2-year visa she got.
Wow.
So after my first year at college, doing my diploma, because we had been living together for a full year in the same house, we were able to prove that we were in a relationship. I was able to jump into her visa. So I was able to get a better job in terms of hours and all that stuff.
Okay. Makes sense. And so is this when you ended up going to Channel 9?
Correct.
Yeah? Okay. So
I did my diploma. I was no longer on a student visa. So I was able to get a job. It was very hard to get into the industry. This is a very hard industry in Australia, Spain, United States, Canada, anywhere in the world. The media industry is very hard to get into. I did spend 3-4 months working for free.
Wow.
I was working in a restaurant, and at the same time I was doing free work as a camera operator for different companies until I finally got a connection and I got a job in Channel 9.
That connection's super cool how that came about. That just like,
yeah,
that's amazing. You could tell the
abbreviated
story of it.
It was actually pretty crazy. So my wife, she's got 2 siblings, a brother and a sister, and they came to visit from Canada. Now, her siblings, they have so it's hard to explain. They have same father, different mother. Mm-hmm. So my wife's stepmom, she's got a very good friend. She has a very good friend in Australia. So when the brother and sister came to visit, they wanted to see this friend, which my wife didn't know. So they met one day for dinner, and they made plans for dinner. And my wife told me, "Please come with me because I don't know this guy, and I don't want to be with them by myself. I don't want to go. I really don't want to go. Why do I have to go?" She insisted, so I ended up going. A very good boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I ended up going, and it turns out this guy, we were having dinner, and he turned to me and said, "So what do you do for a living?" And I explained my situation a little bit. So, I work in a restaurant, but I actually this is my background. I'm trying to get into the industry. And he told me, "You know what? I actually know someone in Channel 9. I sold a car to someone that works in Channel 9. He was a car sales. So he actually contacted the guy, told him about
Followed
me.
Through.
Yeah, and they called me a week later saying, "Hey, I'm Pete from Channel 9.
And didn't you you get connected to kind of like the main news guy in all of Australia? Like he's like the guy. It'd be like Larry King or something in the US.
And that's exactly it. I didn't know him at all. My wife's family friend told me, "So this is the guy, you'll get a call. This is the guy I know. Well, you get a call." So okay, sure. So I got a call from Channel 9. It wasn't him, it was Human Resources saying, "Hey, I got your resume. When can you come for an interview?" I did the interview. They liked me. I started working. And when I started working, I asked, "Hey, I actually got the job through this person. I don't know him, but I want to say thank you to him." And they were like, "You know this guy?" I was like, "I actually don't. It's a family friend. It's a long story, but he got me the job." And they were like, "Wow, he's actually a very big deal in here." So,
he's like the main guy for news, and any Australian person that we know knows who this guy is.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So they got me and say, hey, you don't know me, but I'm actually this guy's friend.
Yeah.
Known guy.
You're friends now. He got you a job.
100%. And he's like, oh yeah, no, you're welcome. No problem. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. But yeah, that's how it happened. I was very lucky. But I do believe that in Australia, if you work hard, you at the end you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Because I did get lots of connections by working for free, and I'm 100% sure eventually I would have made it. It's just happened this way.
Yeah. And so you guys stayed in Australia, in Sydney the rest of the time?
Yeah.
Where would be another place of all, I know you traveled around Australia a good bit. Where would be another place, if you could go back and do it again, you might consider living?
I think, I don't know, I love Sydney.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't live anywhere else but Sydney.
Yeah.
Oh, the Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast.
Brisbane is very cool too.
Yeah.
I did not get to live in Brisbane, but I did get a good vibe. I did spend, I think I visited Brisbane like 5 times. And I did get a very good vibe. Although it is true that it's not the same when you travel to a place. It's not the same when you're doing just touristy stuff than when you're actually living.
That's an important thing. Like I tell people that about Valencia. Like I think Valencia is an awesome place to live. But like if you were just coming to Europe for 1 week or something, like even 2 weeks, I wouldn't suggest coming to Valencia. You've got other bigger things you need to see, but
Correct.
to live, this is really great.
I completely agree. Yeah. So I don't know about Brisbane. I did like it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was it could be a good place to live.
Yeah.
But look, this is very personal. Some people love Melbourne. I did like it. I enjoyed it. But I thought, I visited and I'm going back to Sydney because it's got a very British weather, which it does not go with me.
Yeah.
If you
were
compare
looking
with
for the sun.
Sydney, which is got weather exactly like Valencia, exactly the same, very good weather, or Brisbane, which is tropical, where you will not wear a jacket any time during the year. I lived in the Gold Coast for 1.5 years, and I never ever used my jacket once. You'll use a sweater during the winter at night, but that's it. And that's something that I loved. I think if you are traveling to Australia and you don't know English, I think Gold Coast probably is a good place to start. Because if you go in high season, you'll get jobs so easily. Seriously, you'll get a job, 100%.
Was there anything like... you spent so much time there, so some of this might have faded, but were there any like super strong cultural differences that jumped out to you that were sort of hard to get over, or like that, like maybe even some things about Spain that were built into you that you couldn't let go of, that you found tough to mesh? Like for example, like for me, it's still hard sometimes to think about. I've been here for 3 years almost, and it's hard for me to get used to the time. Like things are done later here. So I still want to go eat at like 12:30 or 1, and I'll go out for lunch and like, oh yeah, nothing's open until 2:30 or 3. And the same.
Absolutely.
So anything
that's exactly the example I was going to. I think that was not the toughest, because at the end I used to have lunch and dinner at home, but you do notice that, if you want to go out with people and stuff, they'll say, oh yeah, let's go for dinner. What time do we meet? 6:30. Wow, 6:30?
I'm just waking up from siesta. Leave me alone.
It's happening, I think that was the only... it's not a big cultural change. It's Australia after all. It's not like if you go to India or China, that's a big shock. But Australia, there's few things, you notice here and then, but it's not a big thing.
It was easy... For the most part, setting some of the challenges immediately aside, it was a pretty easy transition.
I think so, yeah. I think the language was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Because other than that, they just do things in a different way. You just have to get the motion, get into it. For example, for instance, getting a car, for example. Get all the paper or the insurance. The first time I heard about it, I was like, whoa. You know what? Forget about it.
I'll just walk.
I'll just walk or take the bus or whatever. But then once I got into it, I thought, it's actually not that hard. You just need to learn how everything works, all the paperwork and stuff. So it's exactly that. It's just you just have to learn how things work. but it's not like a cultural shock like that.
Yeah.
I think maybe the food is the only thing that I missed the most, because here in Valencia, in Spain, we have very good quality food, vegetables, fruits. Everything is very, very, very good. Whereas in Australia, a lot of the things that you can find, they're very expensive and they have no flavor.
Oh, really?
Like tomatoes is the great example, because I come from here in the Mediterranean, Italy, Spain, Greece. We love our tomatoes. And you go from here to Australia where the tomatoes have no flavor, and they cost, I don't know, like 10 euros a kilo or something.
Wow.
It's very expensive. So there's little things. But on the other hand, you have a lot of, they in Australia, they really, really managed to bring on all the cultures in the world. So you feel like Italian, you got it, and very good. You feel like Spanish, and you can find
especially
it
in
good.
a city like Sydney. I mean, you're gonna
absolutely.
have.
You feel like Thai, you get the best.
Yeah.
You get Japanese, the best one as well.
I feel like this about the U.S. too. Like the U.S. has we have a fusion of cultures, and so you just have really good Chinese food, really good Mexican food, like, and that. I miss that as well. Like
I do miss that a lot, because as you know, I love eating, so that was amazing for me. I used to love that. And being able to get sushi, fresh sushi, just like you can see the guy making the sushi for you. You know what I mean? And it's nothing. For them, it's fast food, because it's more expensive here in Spain, the sushi, than in Australia. And in Australia, you get paid 4 times what you get paid here.
It's crazy.
In here, I can barely afford sushi, whereas in Australia, sushi was every week, once or twice, no problems, and very good quality. So, it's different. It's just different.
Yeah. There's one last thing I want to get to, which is the bit about you coming back to Spain. But before we're getting there, is there any other advice or thoughts? If I was sitting here and I'm considering, especially as a European, but maybe somebody from another part of the world, if I was considering moving to Australia, is there anything else you would want to let that person know, warning, advice, just anything like that?
I've been asked before about my experience in Australia, mainly by Spanish people, and I found that most people, they just are scared of going so far. And, don't get me wrong, I was scared. I spent the first 2 months were very tough on me. But after that, things started getting very easy, and I had the best experience of my life. I went for a year and I stayed 6, and I love it. I think you just have to pre-plan a little bit what you're gonna do.
Maybe don't wing it. Don't wing it so much. Just go have a little bit.
Study a bit of English first. As I mentioned before, get your visa. Don't try to go as a tourist. I mean, you can go as a tourist, but get your student visa up and running very soon, because being legal in the country, legally as in to work, it will open lots of doors for you. And don't be afraid to socialize, because that's how you'll get your first few jobs. Other than that, Australia, honestly, I really think it's an easy place to go. You just have to find your way. Australia, they have a lot of rules and a lot of licenses. For example, to serve alcohol, you need a license. But they have all these licenses, but then they're very chill about it.
Yeah, they're obtainable. Like,
I got my license on my first month in there. I already had my, I don't know how RSA was called. I forgot what it stands for, but I got it when I was only 1 month in Australia. You can imagine my English was horrible. I didn't know anything. And I got the the test.
Exam.
I copied everything from the guy next to me. So, and the guy didn't care. The guy literally gave us the exams and went outside to have a cigarette. That's how I did my exam for that. So they have lots of rules, but they tend to be very chill about most of them.
Well,
so, if you want to go to Australia, just go for it.
I have that impression, talking with other people about their visa situation, going through my visa situation here in Spain, and especially people trying to move to the US. It can be a real nightmare, not just to get in, but then to figure out how to stay, whether it be as a student or a worker or whatever. It seems very chill in Australia, which goes with the stereotype of the Australian. So of course, there's going to be some hurdles, but it generally sounds like it's a pretty smooth process.
Yeah, like as I said, visas, they have many visas, but I think once you get there and you start mingling with people like you, everybody becomes an expert on visas. And if you want to stay in Australia, you can get a visa.
You can.
It's not going to be a problem.
That's very uplifting for people listening, I hope. So the last little bit, we'll wrap up with just this last minute or two. But I think it's an interesting point that you came back here, not to go into too many details on that, but you came back here to study to be a pilot, and you and Amber had your first son together. You have Javi, and I thought it was interesting. Like, there's tons of details we could get into about all of that, but the point that I think is interesting is, and I just had a phone call with a coworker of mine about this recently, right before our conversation today, is the repatriation part. Coming back and sort of having that reverse culture shock, and experiencing, like, I don't even kind of want to be in my own country. I don't feel normal here.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So two things. Like, one, I don't think you ever came back, correct? Like, or did you ever come back and visit? Or
I did once.
Just one time.
Yeah.
So one time in 6 years you were back here in Spain.
And I ran away back to Australia.
And then you ran back to Australia. Yeah. Now you're back. When you arrived back, what was that experience like? And
it was rough, because 6 years in Australia, I came here only once for holidays, just to see the family. I came for 3 weeks. And I remember that first time I noticed a lot of change. And I remember thinking, I'm so happy I live in Australia. I went back running. I was very happy to be back in Australia. And when I came back here to study, it happened the same. It was tough for me coming back. It's a very weird experience, because you have your family and your friends and you're very happy to see them and to be with them, but somehow, and this is probably I don't know if everybody goes through this experience, but for me, living in Australia had a lifestyle that I was unable to replicate here, and it was very hard for me to explain to my friends and family. It's like, yeah, but I have a very good life in there, and I come back here and I get the feeling that I'm coming back to a third world country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. It's very hard to explain, but I got the feeling that
just because the economics of your life were better in Australia, you were making more money, living in a nicer place.
Absolutely.
You felt like you were living.
But it's not only that. It is true that I was making good money at Channel 9, but it is also true that working as a waiter in Australia, I was able to make. And you get paid minimum wage in Australia. What I'm going is that with minimum wage in Australia, I was able to do so many things that in Spain, minimum wage you do not do. You know,
like what? Travel or?
Well, here in Spain, minimum wage you barely pay your rent.
Okay.
To start with, whereas in Australia, with minimum wage, I pay the visa, I pay the courses. I pay rent, I pay food. I used to go out for drinks, I used to go out for dinners. I went to New Zealand, I went to Malaysia, I went to Indonesia, I went to so many other, Singapore. I traveled around Australia. All that I did it as a waiter. Only as a waiter. And this is not a secret, like people know. There's a lot of French people, Italian people, they go to Australia because they know they're gonna spend 2-3 years that they're gonna travel the world, because you get a good salary. And you're able to travel. Then you come back here and it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's shocking. It's shocking because I grew up here in Spain being told, you go abroad and you're going to get paid more, but everything is more expensive. It does not work like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
I told this to all my friends. A kilo of rice in Australia is cheaper than a kilo of rice in Spain.
Really?
It is.
Yeah. Wow.
Unfortunately for us. But in Australia, I get paid four times where I get paid here.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
There's few things, and now this is good to know. If you smoke and you're a heavy drinker, it's expensive in Australia. They have lots of taxes in alcohol and in cigarettes, tobacco. Anything else is a bit more expensive, but it's not 4 times more expensive. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you are going to get paid 4 times what you get paid here in Spain. So I had a very good, you get a very good quality of life in Australia compared to Spain. That's the first time in my life that I noticed I grew up and here in Spain, and everybody tells you, you're lucky you live in a first world country. There are third world countries around there, and it is true.
Yeah.
But among these so-called first countries, there are different levels as well.
Yeah, yeah, there are.
And Spain is not a first world country. I would say that, Spain is in the bottom of that barrel for me.
I've met other Spanish people that have said the same and said like,
you go to other countries and you get, and very importantly, and this is very importantly, in Australia, my wife and I, we both work for different companies, completely different sectors, but one thing they have in common is that they treat you very well. They treat you very, very well. You have sick days, you have so much holidays. I used to, in Channel 9, for example, I used to work in the morning show. My shift was from 4 o'clock in the morning to 12. If I'm not wrong, that's 8 hours. Legally, that was my shift. But the morning show finished at 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock, my boss used to say, just go home. And I got paid until 12. Those 3 hours, I never did them. They said, no, just go home. It's fine. There's nothing to do here. In Spain, they will have you cleaning the floors, and
they'll find something for you to do. In the US,
or they will just not pay you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same with Ember, my wife. Also the same experience. Like, she worked for companies, they really take care of you. Whereas here in Spain, a lot of companies do not take care of you at all. They abuse you.
And so I guess the question that most people would have at this point then is then, why come back? And I think the general answer that I get when I ask people who've spent time in Australia or New Zealand, which notoriously have amazingly high quality of life, people love living there, but everybody says it's just so far. And you're far from family and friends. Yeah. And I mean, you coming back once in 6 years, you have a young family now. There's a lot of factors at play there, right? Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, it was family, friends, my son. We both wanted to live somewhere with family because you want them to. Even Spain is closer to Canada than Australia to Canada, so to Toronto, which is where my wife is from. But mainly, one of the main reasons, it was my family too, but being selfish, it was because I wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
And that was something that it was one of a dream of mine. I thought, I had saved so much money in Australia that I was going to be able to pay for the whole course in Spain. So I thought, this could be a good chance to first study to become a pilot for a couple of years. Second, to have some free time to be with my son because I'm not going to be working. And third, to spend some time with my family.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, as soon as I got here, I thought, I finished the pilot thing and I'm leaving.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm staying here. But somewhere in Europe, probably.
Have you settled? Do you feel like you've settled back into Spain on a better level? I mean, you're.
Well, I think I've got used to it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like when I came back at first, I was like, oh my God, I can't be here. I can't be here. I don't want to live in this place. The parks, everything is dirty. The parks are full of graffitis. Everything is dirty. It's very European in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, everything is so clean and neat everywhere that, you come here and it's like a shop. And I was like, I don't want to be here. But you get used to it.
Yeah.
And you go back to, I still think I will probably leave at some stage, but for now, we are going to stay here a bit longer.
Any last minute advice for somebody trying to get over that repatriation kind of reverse culture shock? Is it just push through, or is it?
I think I just did push through. Keep yourself busy, I guess. I was very busy.
Yeah, you were.
My kid and studying and getting my wife to settle into this new adventure for her. So I was actually quite busy. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the key for me to just keep pushing and keep going. I think that was the only thing. I can't think of anything.
It's good. During the most trying times in life, that's just put your head down and make yourself busy.
Keep going forward.
Well, Guillermo, this is awesome. I learned a ton about Australia, about moving to Australia as a European, and I'm sort of jealous of your adventures you had down there. But
yeah, it was good.
Unless you've got anything else you want to share real quick, we'll sign off there. I don't
think so. I think that's pretty much, I can't think of anything else. It's just that I'm in love with Australia. I think it's the best country to live, seriously. Yeah.
Well, I'm hopeful that people listening to this, if anybody had any interest in going to Australia, giving it a shot, will be inspired to do it, because I think that's what it takes some time, is just hearing that somebody else did it and it's possible. So yeah, thanks for telling us your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's awesome. Thanks. All right.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. You can visit aboutabroad.com to get our latest updates and listen to past episodes, or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, really anywhere you get your podcasts. On that note, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to subscribe, and if inclined, leave a few stars and a review. It's truly, truly appreciated and will help more wanderers just like you find us. Until the next time, adios from España.